Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shubhodaya, good morning, and a very warm welcome to this episode of Weekend with Wisdom. This is Nitin Sridhar, Director of Indica Center for Moksha Studies. Let me begin with a prayer. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hare Om. Today we are very fortunate to have Professor Ramakrishna Hosur ji, who is with us and will be speaking on a very interesting topic, modern science in the background of ancient Indian wisdom. Just a brief introduction to Sir. Ramakrishna Hosur ji is a scientist of international repute. He worked at TIFR Mumbai from 1978 to 2018, and he was director of UMDAE CEBS from December 2009 till 2017. He is author of more than 250 research articles and 4 books. His scientific work has been recognized by several awards, including the prestigious Padma Shri award awarded by the President of India. He was awarded Padma Shri in 2014. Sir is a fellow of national and international science academies, and he has been deeply interested in Indian philosophy since childhood. Just recently, we did a very wonderful interview with him, and on his new book, When Science Meets Spirituality. Do check it out on our Advaita Academy YouTube channel. So thank you, sir, for making time for this talk.
Thank you.
Please go ahead and start your session. You can share your PPT now.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. First, let me thank Nitin ji for inviting me to this platform and asking me to give a lecture on this topic, which has touched my heart for several years, right from the childhood. And professionally, I took up science as my career, and alongside, I was also practicing philosophy, learning about philosophy to some extent. Whatever I learned, it has always inspired me and helped me in my scientific progression as well. So therefore, I thought this may be a good thing to share this kind of thoughts to others who may also benefit by knowing all of these things. So that is the purpose, and Nitinji has taken great interest in arranging this, and I'm thankful to him for this. And let me begin by showing you this. This thing is blocking on the top. Get rid of that. Okay, so fine. So now this is, I begin with this statement from the Bhagavad Gita. It says, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. So it translates as, there is nothing more sacrosanct than knowledge. Mankind has always been curious and seeking truthful knowledge about realities of our universe and our life. Ancient Indian science, dating back to thousands of years, dealt with material as well as spiritual aspects of universe and life. The spiritual aspects invoked abstract entities, namely Atma, Paramatma, and relationship between them. This defines the philosophy of life. This has been there for several millennia, and in between, there, of course, there was a destruction of this by various people, invaders. They deliberately tried to destroy this, and there was a break in that one. But again, the modern science came back into existence, which is about 400 years old, with the new discoveries happening in other parts of the world, including in India. Modern science, which is just 400 years old, has been dealing only with the material aspects of universe and life. Seeking knowledge is a continuing process. So therefore, whatever was there in the beginning, of course, it will contribute to the later developments. And as we go along, we will see more and more evidence to that. The standard approach is to gain such a knowledge is threefold. Firstly, direct observation, which in the Indian philosophy it is called pratyaksha. Other languages also it's called pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means nirdosh arthendriya sannikarsha pratyaksha, which means it is a direct interaction with the sense organs of the objects. Both of them have to be flawless, faultless, nirdosha. Your indriya should be flawless, and your object also should be flawless, and there should be no obstacles in between nirdosha. And that is pratyaksha. Inference is anumana. Anumana is you draw inference from some observation. So it is always related, support you to the pratyaksha. For example, you say from a distance you see smoke coming out in the kind of a hill. So parvato vanyaman dhumatva, you say. So you look at the smoke and infer about the presence of fire at the bottom of, and on the hill. So this should be continuous smoke, and you have to understand that very well. Of course, otherwise it can lead to an illusion. If it is not properly understood, it will lead to an illusion. Then you have the authentic literature, which is called agama. Agama is nirdosha shabda agama. So the words or the sentences which are fault-free, these are called as agama, authentic literature. All the three are employed in the case of material science. We will see that how. And in case of abstract entities, however, the authentic scriptures, namely the Vedas, become the key source of knowledge for detailed understanding. These scriptures also contain information about the material aspects, and this has been the strength of ancient wisdom. Now, what are these authentic scriptures, ancient Indian authentic scriptures? This is stated here by this sloka. Rugadya Bharatam Chaiva Pancharatram Pancharatramaya Mula Ramayanam Chaiva Puranam Chaitadatmakam. So there are four Vedas, namely Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Then you have this Itihasa, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Pancharatra, and 18 Mahapuranas, which constitute the authentic scriptures. The essence of all of these is contained in Bhagavad Gita. This is a narration by Sri Krishna, who is the avatar of God, during the Mahabharata. And the 18 Mahapuranas composed by Maharshi Vedavyas, who is also considered as the avatar of Mahavishnu, these are Matsya, Markandeya, Varaha, Bhavishya, Bhagavata, Brahma, Brahmavevarta, Brahmananda, Vamana, Kurma, Vishnu, Agni, Naradiya, Padma, Shiva, Linga, Garuda, and Skanda. So these are the Mahapuranas. All of these constitute what we call as the authentic scriptures. Okay. Now, this is the general summary statement. What I have here is that many of the observations documented therein are in fact getting reinvented by modern science today. Descriptions regarding cosmology, planetary motions, personalized medicine, plastic surgery are some illustrative examples. Scriptures have documented many technologies, experimental strategies for healthcare, rules for effective administration, scientific validation, ethical values, etc., all of which are relevant for harmonious and peaceful life. We will expand on these the general statements with several examples as we go along. Okay. Among these, the Atharva Veda, which relates largely to the material aspects and some spiritual aspects. There are these suktas called Bhaishajya Sukta. These treatments for diseases and medicines. Then Ayusha Sukta, prayers for long life. Paustika Sukta, building houses and agriculture. Prayashchitta Sukta, repentance for wrong acts and remedies. Stri Karma Sukta, marriage and love related issues. Rajakarma Sukta, kings and their duties and responsibilities. If you look at the enormity and the spread of knowledge in these Vedas. Okay, let us first talk about the material world. We have two things here. One is the material aspects, other thing is the spiritual aspects. And we just go step by step. First, we will look at the material world. The general methodology in modern science with respect to the material world, because modern science deals only with the material world. So you make an observation in the material world, make a hypothesis to explain the observation, then you do direct experimentation on the material world to test the hypothesis. This may require design and building of equipment, interpretation of the experimental results as per physical laws, documentation of results and conclusions for verification and repetition. This constitutes the literature, which is the agama, which I mentioned earlier. Reproducibility of scientific observations and conclusions arrived at by some individuals and verifiability of those conclusions by others lead to general acceptability and a feeling of validity. Okay, in ancient times, what was the style? Style was actually named as Gurukul system. The Gurukul system of education in India, which was holistic in nature, encompassed both spirituality and material science, and relied on scriptures as well as your observation, the pratyaksha and anumana inference. The Gurukul had this holistic education, dealt with realities of our universe, existence, culture, and society, and knowledge was imparted as per professional requirement. These were very well understood. What were the professional requirements were very well understood. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Bhagavan says, Chaturvarnam maya srishtam gunakarma vivagashah. So that is what he says. According to the individual's abilities and the karma, they were divided into four kinds of professions. And the Gurukuls actually provided all these different kinds of knowledge to the appropriate individuals. And these Nalanda and Takshashila universities were the oldest centers of education and attracted learners from across the globe. But these were destroyed by the Mughal invaders because they wanted to establish their own empire, destroy the culture that is present here, and that caused the break in our scientific advance from the ancient style. And of course, we had this reinvention that became the modern science. Just look at the kind of achievements from the ancient Indian scientists. And this list is very, very long. I put here only a small numbers here. Invention of zero, one of the greatest contributions of India. All science is based on this. So zero is so important. For example, its properties, 10 plus 0 is 10, 10 minus 0 is 10, 10 into 0 is all 0, 10 divided by 0 is infinity. I see these are very important concepts, and these actually dictate the whole of science. Then they also describe the value of pi, and where and how did they get it? We do not know. This was all kinds of investigations were there. Astronomy, stars, galaxies. They predicted the distances between the sun, moon, and the earth. And they also said it has a spherical sun, has a spherical shape. Planets rotate around their axis. Planets revolve around the sun in definite orbits. Relative sense of rotation and the logic of 12 months in a year, production of hydroelectric power, mechanism and prediction of eclipses. And they also said light travels in a straight line. And there is some report on, they also predicted the speed of light. Insight into 7 colors in sunlight, particle wave dual nature of photons. This is actually the topic of quantum science these days. Duality of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and the superposition principle, particle wave duality. This is an important aspect of quantum theory. Atomic theory of matter, we talked about the Paramanu there. So today we are talking about the atomic theory of matter. Flying machines, Vaimanika Shastra, Yoga Shastra, which is related to health, and also the spiritual concepts. So all of these were covered in the ancient Indian education system. Okay, look at the marvels of Indian architecture. I'll show you some examples here. So you have on the left, you have the Kailash temple carved out of a single rock, working downwards from the top of the hill. What technology did they have? Then on the right hand side, you have an iron pillar, which is 1600 years old, and it has not rusted. What kind of a composition it had? How did they make such a pillar which is exposed to all kinds of atmospheric changes and it still does not rust? And then you look at the Meenakshi temple, 3000 years old. Look at the architecture there. the finesse of the various statues, murtis inside there. And then on the last, you can see the symmetry in these pillars, beautiful symmetry of and the finesse of the architecture which is there. And that actually is mind blowing. Okay, now let's come to the even more fundamental aspects like creation of the universe. Ancient science said explosion of the Brahmanda, the golden egg. This was initiated by God. He created the physical laws that sustain the order in the universe. And then scriptures also talk about multiple universes, each with its own laws. And in fact, this actually was demonstrated by Lord Krishna in Mahabharata to Brahma. When Brahma was trying to test it out with Krishna Bhagavan, and Krishna showed him the enormous number of universes which are present, and each one of them has a Brahma, he actually showed him all of those Brahmas. And today we are in the modern science, we are talking about multiple universes and each with its own laws. Which laws are in which universe? Who knows? They also talk about cycle of creation and destruction. So it is a cyclic procedure. The universe is created, destroyed, in a certain way with a particular time scale. And each creation starts at the beginning of each kalpa, 8.64 billion years. And you can see that the age of the earth is actually is equal to the day of the Brahma, which is 4.2 billion years. So therefore, such kind of a knowledge has been described in our scriptures. And look at this here, the distances between, they started with the Big Bang, or you see on the side, and the universe started expanding. As it expanded, all the various kinds of galaxies and stars were formed, and it started cooling further, and you have various kinds of astronomical objects created there. And then you have below, you have this, you can see here, the moon, the earth, and the sun, and the distances between them are exactly given here. And this distance is 108 suns. The distance between earth and the sun is 108 suns, which is the diameter of the sun is given here. 108 suns means that you have to take the diameter of that one. So diameter of that one is given here in miles. Earth has a diameter 8,000 miles. Moon has a diameter 2,160 miles. The distance between the moon and the earth is 108 moons. Here it is 108 suns. And what is this 108 number? Mysterious number. And this is stated in Rigveda, which is actually supposed to have somebody said 10,000 years ago, but that is that can be debated how much more, how long it was. But all of these things is even more than that. But this kind of information was present, and these numbers, what you see, they're actually very close to the modern distance estimates of these between the sun, the moon, and the earth. And they predicted the eclipses also very well. They understood what the eclipses occurred, who came in between, for what eclipse, and things like that. Now, at a more fundamental level, said the entire cosmos is an interplay of the energies of 5 great elements, which are called as Panchamahabhutas. These are space, air, fire, water, and earth. Space is the most fundamental, contains energy, and supports all the others. And these 5 elements actually combine themselves to form 3 other kinds of entities, and these are called as Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These are combinations and permutations of these elements that manifest as patterns present in all creation. This is, in a graphical manner, it is indicated here. What is constituted by Vata? Okay, now what? See, Vata here is mixture of air and ether. This is space here, and then you have the Pitta is constituted by fire and this thing here. You can't see this clearly. Water, fire and water. And so then you have this earth, which comes the kapha. This is the kapha here. Kapha is you cannot read it properly in the color. This is earth and the water. So these are the combinations which actually determine the composition of the universe. Okay. Now they also talked about the life, how life is formed. is a combination of all of these Panchamahabhutas at the atomic level. Slowly they progressed into things like that, the three doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and slowly into the molecules and the cellular and biochemical level, organ level, and organism level, and then actually you have the human beings that depending upon this Pitta, Vata, and Kapha, these are different kinds of individuals that are formed. And they predicted that there are about 8.4 million species in this universe, in this planet. Okay. And we will see what is the modern science view. The modern science view, the creation happened with from starting from a Big Bang, and at about 13.9 billion years ago. And that it was very high temperature, which is in a very infinitesimally small space here. That is infinite density of energy. There was nothing around. And then it was very, very hot. Then you said that it is 10 to the power 32 degrees centigrade, if you want to go by the modern yardsticks there. Then it started cooling. Then it expanded suddenly, it started expanding, started cooling. As it started cooling, the other materials were formed. You form the elements. Then the initial particles were like the quarks and things like that. They condensed to form atoms. The atoms then formed molecules, and then formed, of course, the various kinds of stars, galaxies, planets, etc. Everything got formed as they started cooling. And the human being appeared somewhere here around 4.32 billion years ago. And then you have this here, these various planets going around the sun. They go in a regular orbit. They are governed by this physical law, the gravitational law. And this is the galaxy here, which contains of billions of stars. So this is the whole thing. There are so many galaxies over there, and each one of them has so many suns, and each sun has so many planets, and all of them are in perfect order. The laws do not change. The gravitational law does not change. It is always attractive, goes with the inverse square law so far as our universe is concerned. And therefore, this order is the immaculate order, unchangeable order, has been there for billions of years. The processes in the universe follow strictly well-defined laws and have been doing so for billions of years, even before humans came into existence. This is an important point to note. We'll come back to this later. The faith in science is laws will never change. And that is how you're able to make predictions, and you can design experiments to make your predictions, the hypothesis which I said earlier, and therefore underlying belief is that the laws will never change. Similarly, they also talked about the evolution of the human beings, the evolution of life there, started in a molecular composition. Slowly, some small molecules were formed, and then you have the organisms coming in. Then you have the single cell systems and single cellular systems, and then you have the multiple, then you have the plants, then you have the other animals, and finally we have the human beings at this point here. So it is said that there are about 8.7 million species there. However, there is an uncertainty here depending upon the kinds of classification you do, because the classification is based on what sort of characters these species have. They're aquatic, or whether they stay on the land, or they're insects, or there are human beings. All these classifications, there are some categories, mixtures, and therefore some uncertainty with regard to this. It goes from 8.7 plus minus 1.4. See, therefore, look at the accuracy with which the ancient Okay, and then modern science, of course, with all these various innovative ideas, the technologies has achieved incredible feats. And then you have this atomic structure here, the nuclear structure here, the neutron, proton, and these are formed of quarks. And then the proton, these actually constitute the atom. And finally, the atoms into the molecules, molecules into the stars, and stars radiate energy. So, and then of course, you also made technology. You can make the televisions here. You can look at the human body inside by technologies like MRI or CAT scan and things like that. You even cloned the actual animal in the laboratory, and then you landed on the moon here. And these are mobile telephones, which are actually technologies with which we are all familiar with. Of course, we cannot live without them now. So therefore, you start feeling that nothing is impossible with the laws and physical laws which are there, and with the intellect, as the science and technology is growing, everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. And therefore, there is no need of spiritual thoughts. This is the kind of a conclusion many of the young people and even the senior people come to conclusion. But now the question is this a wise thought? Are there any things which are not understood, or that what are the limitations, if there are limitations? Okay. Now you see, there are many unanswered questions in modern science with regard to creation, and therefore the research continues. What are these unanswered questions? The visible matter in the universe accounts for only 5% of the total expected as per current theories. The remaining 95% is unknown. It doesn't interact with anything. This is called as dark matter, dark energy. What do? How to know about it? Nobody knows. What is the source of the infinite energy expressed at the time of Big Bang? Where did it come from? Okay. And how was the energy compacted in such an infinitesimally small space? And what caused the Big Bang? Why are the physical laws as they are? And I have many more questions like this. I've given you some few illustrative questions here to show that there are limits to what extent our scientific thought can unravel. And therefore, we'll have to go beyond that to understand all of those things. Okay. Now we come to healthcare. That was so far as the material with regard to the universe is connected. Let us look at the healthcare. So here in the ancient science, we talk about healthcare, and there are three major texts, and these are all part of Ayurveda. This is the Upaveda of Atharva Veda, and there are three particular texts which are of great importance. This is the Charaka Samhita, then you have the Shushrusha Samhita, and then Ashtanga Hridayam of Vamabhatta. These have been the source of information for all the Ayurvedic doctors and surgeons and things like that. Okay. What is the principle of Ayurveda? Ayurveda fundamentally focuses on constitution. What is constitution? This is the inner balance of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, which are referred to as the doshas. I talked about the Vata, Pitta, Kapha earlier. These are called as doshas in the body. This constitution is called as Prakriti of an individual, which is determined at conception itself and remains the same throughout one's life. So this is like the DNA in the modern language. Not quite parallel, but the DNA is something which is unique to every individual. That doesn't change, and therefore everything process of the human body is dependent on the DNA. The information is contained in the DNA that is expressed, and if it is expressed wrongly, it can lead to various kinds of malfunctions, the diseases, etc. In the same manner, these doshas are the crucial things for every individual, which is an imbalance of that can lead to various kinds of problems. How do you identify what is the constitution of a particular person? What is the Prakriti? Typically, there are some loose identifiers, like, for example, if you have the water dominant individual, his body structure will be something like this. If the Pitta dominated person, he will look like this. Kapha dominated person will look like this. It does not mean that the Kapha person does not have Vata and Pitta, and similarly in the other cases, but what is the dominating factor? And these things can change as per your lifestyles, as per your diets, and because of those things, there can be the imbalances in your composition, and then that will lead to different kinds of illnesses. So here is a classical description of the body, various characteristics of Kapha Pitta dominated individuals. Kapha Pitta Vata dominated individuals. See the body frame, body weight, skin type, eyes, hair. And the list is actually much more. I've given you only a few of those here, but this graphically I've also shown you how they look like in these kinds of things. It also shows up in their behaviors and attitudes towards environment, attitudes towards others. All of these things matter in this combination of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now, the Ayurveda also talked even further. They talked about what are called as the nadis and the chakras. So nadis and the chakras. Nadis is the term for the channels through which the energies such as prana of the physical body flow. These are 72,000 in number. These are 36,000 on each side of the body, left half and right half, 36,000 each. And this is the kind of a schematic picture here. It is a complicated picture which shows all these various kinds of nadis, prana flow. Okay, in the physical body, the nadis are channels for carrying air, water, nutrients, blood, and other bodily fluids around, and are metaphorically similar to the arteries, veins, capillaries, bronchioles, nerves, lymph canals, and so on. So this is not exactly one-to-one parallel, but it is one of them is a metaphysical concept, Other one is an anatomical concept. These are parallels. In some sense, they are the parallels. But in one case, we talk about the flow of the energy, which is the prana, which actually drives the various actions, functions in the body and reaches out to all parts of the body. And chakras are some major glands. These are actually located, we talk about the chakras on the spinal cord. So that is the thing which is said here. The chakras are indicated here. These are the spinal cord. And among the nadis, there are three important nadis which are called as Pingala, Sushumna, and Ida nadi. And these are the main carriers of the prana, and from these all the other nadis branch out into the picture which I showed you before. And these various chakras are the centers of energy where there's all various these nadis actually converge, and any imbalances in these centers they can become blocked, which manifest as illness, aches, or pains in the body. And body, mind, and consciousness work together in maintaining a balance, a holistic and unique approach. When we say this, see, also not only take care of the physical aspects of the body, but also the mental aspects. And the mental aspects are intimately connected with your consciousness. Consciousness, your health, exercises, all of those, and the mind. We'll talk about the consciousness a little bit later. Okay, symptoms of imbalance. They actually described here. The different kinds of imbalances can be there. There can be any of them can be increased or decreased of this. So if you have the vata increased, then you have these various kinds of symptoms which are coming. Here I will not go into the reading all of those ones there. But similarly for the pitta, also there are several symptoms which are given here. Similarly for kapha, there are various kinds of symptoms indicated, which with the Ayurvedic doctor actually looks at all of these things when he wants to conclude what is the kind of an imbalance. There are similar things for decreased vata, pitta, and kapha. So the Ayurvedic doctor who is familiar with all of these things, he will examine the individual carefully and look at the symptoms which are there, and it draws conclusions about the overall imbalance in the body, in the structure of the body. And then the treatment is given accordingly. It is not one particular symptom, it is a holistic treatment. And he actually wants to cure the system rather than simply make a temporary correction. So, and then yoga is for cleaning the blocked chakras. And the yoga consists of various kinds of angas. It's called Ashtanga yoga. There is the physical exercise is one of those. Then you have the meditation. These are all described in Ashtanga yoga. Yoga is a healer, can balance the doshas. You see, yoga is a concept which is now being adopted in modern medicine. So they also talk about pranayam, they talk about the exercises, how to control your mind, how to control your thought process. So all of these things are described in the modern science as well now. But this has been there in our ancient scriptures for thousands of years. There are Prakriti-specific asanas, and meditation is recommended for all Prakritis. So it is the meditation will create a kind of a situation which will balance the doshas, and Ashtanga Yoga helps maintain physical and mental health. Okay, now herbal medicines which are also built from the five Mahabhutas. See, the logic here is your body is built from the five Mahabhutas, right, are the three doshas. And therefore, any imbalance there has to be corrected for by taking recourse to these kinds of materials only. So the herbal medicines, which are also of natural origin, and these are also built from the five Mahabhutas, and they can be classified according to the rasas. Okay, so therefore, what is rasa? What a rasa is a combination of different kinds of Mahabhutas, and that will result in different kinds of tastes. Rasa is a kind of a taste. So therefore, you have all these kinds of foods which are present here. See, therefore, Ayurveda emphasizes heavily on the diet. What kind of foods you will eat, and what are the rasas? The rasas are 6 types here. So you have the synergistic effects, the sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, astringent. These are the 6 rasas, and these are made of these Mahabhutas here indicated here. So therefore, you have the combinations of different Panchabhutas among the Panchamahabhutas, and this typical examples are for sweet, for example, honey, rice, sugar, fruit, carbohydrates, grains. And for sour, you have the yogurt, citrus fruits, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, vinegar, cheese, fermented foods, and so on. And what do they do? Sweet, for example, it decreases the vata, decreases the pitta and increases the kapha. So sour, it decreases the water, increases the pitta, and also increases the kapha. Salty food decreases the water, increases pitta, increases kapha. Likewise, pungent, katu, increases water, increases pitta, decreases kapha. So the bitter increases water, decreases pitta, decreases kapha. Astringent increases water, decreases pitta, decreases kapha. Therefore, you see, you can have combinations of the foods depending upon what kind of an imbalance you have in your body. And apart from this, apart from these rasas, Ayurveda also talks about water. Water is the most important aushadhi for everything. You see here, Jalhi, there is a shloka here, we will not read the shloka there, but you can just read here, Hindi translation there. Jalhi aushadhi hai. जल ही सब रोगों का नाश करने वाला है. जल किसी एक रोग की नहीं, समस्त रोगों की औषधि है. हे रोगी, जल तुझे क्षय, कुष्ठ, घृगी आदि क्षेत्रीय रोगों से छुड़ाए. See, today in modern science also people say you drink water enough, plenty of water in a systematic way. In Ayurveda, they also talked about the process of drinking water, how to drink water. Not just take a big glass and then cut, you just drink in one go. They also say, no, you should sit down, drink in a sip-wise manner, drink slowly, and you should give gap after food. Don't eat it during the food. All of these things are prescribed in your Ayurveda. And today we are talking about that in modern science as well. And water is an important component. See, our 80% of our body is made of water. Okay, then medication in surgery. Shruta Samhita talks about medication. So many different kinds of surgeries are described there. Shruta developed surgical techniques for reconstructing noses, earlobes, genitalia, etc. For successful surgery, Sushruta induced anesthesia using intoxicants such as wine and wine, cannabis indica. Even today, rhinoplasty described by Sushruta in 600 BC is referred to as the Indian flap, and he is known as the originator of plastic surgery. Okay, now in recent modern literature, which is in 2015, they actually carried out this detailed genome-wide analysis of some particular kind of individual and studied their diseases. And then you find that genome-wide analysis correlates Ayurvedic Prakriti. We don't want to go into this analysis of these details there, but the conclusion they make is we found that PGM1, which is a gene, correlates with phenotype of Pitta as described in the ancient text of Charaka Samhita. This is their statement in their paper. I just copy-pasted it from their paper, suggesting that the phenotypic classification of India's traditional medicine has a genetic basis, and its Prakriti-based practice in vogue for many centuries resonates with personalized medicine. So you see here, modern science acknowledgement of genetic basis of Prakriti on one hand and personalized medicine on the other. Now, therefore, you see, current medicine, you have so many individuals there. You want to do a therapy, particular kind of a drug which is given here. Okay, it has a good effect here, so they are healthy. And no effect on these people and adverse effects. Therefore, you have three kinds of results which are happening as a result of the medicine you give. One treatment fits all. So you give the same medicine to everybody, then you have this. Future medicine is personalized medicine. Here you do more personalized diagnostics. Each individual is analyzed on the basis of his prakriti. And you give different kinds of treatments to those, and you see everybody recovers, and the effect is all of them are healthy. So therefore, this has become now an accepted practice in modern medicine. Therefore, Ayurvedic treatment is holistic, aims at prevention of diseases. Therefore, it puts a heavy emphasis on the diet, your exercises, meditation, the yoga, and therefore it cures at the root level. It takes the whole system as a whole. Modern science treatment is based on symptoms and is localized, yields rapid results. You need to have rapid results as well. Therefore, what you do, A combination of the two will help in reducing suffering, a proper cure, and good health. Okay, so that is so much we talked about the material world. Let us turn to the spiritual world. This, of course, the spiritual domain overlaps with the material domain. Okay, because the Atma and Paramatma interact with the material world. Therefore, this needs exploration. Okay, here we talk about the science meets spirituality. Most modern youth believe that as science and technology progress, make new discoveries, everything about the universe and life will be understood in due course. I talked about this in the earlier slide also. Now we are returning to it and to answer those kinds of questions. Is this a wise thought? Do science and spirituality meet? Frequently asked questions by the modern youth and many seniors alike on spirituality are: what is consciousness? Is there a soul which is different from body? Is there a God? Is there rebirth? What is karmic account? Why should we read Shastras or the scriptures? How do we know Vedas are authentic? How do we understand God if He exists? Is spirituality blind faith as against science? What is moksha? So these are the various kinds of questions which are asked. And where do we find the answers? Okay, now I have advertised here this book. You find answers to most of these questions in as convincing manner as possible. And of course, I cannot cover all of that is present in this book. I cover a few of those points. A few glaring ones are considered here for illustration. Then, of course, that will motivate the people to go back and look at it and read more about it in this book. And what are the things which are treated here? Is spirituality and science are mutually inclusive with overlapping domains. And science and spirituality are two faces of the same coin, separate faces yet not separable. Spirituality is a science of laws and order in both physical and metaphysical worlds. Both employ rigorous approaches with well-defined principles and rules. Spirituality goes beyond what can be accessed by direct material-based experimentation, that is, things like soul, God, and relation between them. And these are the various philosophies. And notice here, this is what Dalai Lama said also. And he has written the foreword for this book. He says, today in the first quarter of the century, 21st century, science and spirituality have the potential to come closer than ever and to embark upon collaborative endeavors that will have far-reaching potential to help humanity meet the challenges before us. I suppose most of you know Dalai Lama. He won the Nobel Prize for Peace in, I think, 1989 or something. I don't remember the year. Okay, now let us turn to these spiritual entities, the faith, soul, and God. Faith is an integral part of life. Okay, any belief represents truth until proven otherwise. Why I say faith is integral part of life? Because you cannot live without faith. You have to have faith on your parents, your faith on your friends, faith on what they suggest, things like that. Any belief represents truth until proven otherwise. Okay, and any belief which remains invalidated is dubbed as blind faith. Okay, now how can we invalidate a particular belief? Now, validation of a belief is dependent on individual abilities, tools available, and for a given belief, only a few may be able to achieve that validation. Such a belief is not blind faith. Just because everybody is not able to do validation does not make it a blind faith. Even if few are able to do that, there are several examples I can give you on this, because we have things like discoveries happening in CERN. You have the Higgs boson discovered there. We did not do it. Those people who were doing experiments there, they did it, but we accept it. There are many things which are everybody cannot do, but even if some people are able to demonstrate it, you accept it. Therefore, that does not become blind faith. It is a truth. And similarly, it is like this. A blind man not being able to see the world does not disprove the existence of the world. The world is there, but he is not able to see it. So that doesn't mean the world does not exist. Okay, entities such as soul, God, which are beyond the reach of direct experimentation, can sometimes be inferred, validated by experience. Like, for example, who am I? So you ask yourself a question, who am I? Who is this I? I is actually, is it a body? What is it? It is actually the soul. Why is life uncertain? You are not able to predict what is going to happen to you next moment. Okay? Will you get what you want? Will you be always happy? Why? What is the reason for the miseries? Why does an innocent person die of an accident? You have train accidents, plane accidents, and so forth. And there are cyclones coming in, various kinds of uncertainties which are there, natural disasters. Why do they all happen? These are not in your control. You cannot do anything about it. And therefore, there is something which is beyond your control. And these actually point, these are the experiences which point to the existence of somebody who is in command, and that is your God. However, these are experiences. Okay, you infer from there. However, a more detailed knowledge has to be obtained from the authentic scriptures. Authenticity has been demonstrated by gifted acharyas who displayed supernatural abilities. Therefore, I will have to demonstrate this. Some of these I will demonstrate. I will show you. Therefore, the statements in the scriptures had to be taken as representing truth. Okay, now we also have serendipity in science. Many great discoveries and inventions in science have actually happened by what we often call as serendipity, which is nothing but intervention by God. For example, X-rays by Röntgen in 1895. He observed some unknown, highly penetrating rays in his experiment. He did not predict it. He did not understand it initially what they are and how did they come. And he called it X-rays. These are highly penetrating rays with very high energy. Similarly, penicillin by Fleming in 1928. And there was an accidental appearance of a mold which destroyed the bacteria on his plate. So these are experimental plates. On this, there were bacteria, and suddenly a mold appeared there, and it destroyed the bacteria around it. All other bacteria were growing, but those which are around that mold, they were destroyed. And therefore, further research in that one enabled identification of a chemical, which you call as penicillin. This is the antibiotic. Now, antibiotic, now you see, you cannot live without antibiotics. The entire medical domain is full of antibiotics. So any infection you have, you need to take antibiotics. Moving by Perkin 1956, unexpected appearance of a new compound in his reaction. You're trying to synthesize something in a chemical reaction, but suddenly he found something different, totally unexpected. And when you do further research on that one, he actually discovered a new compound, which was supposed to be very important for malaria and things like that. Then you have insulin in 1880, unexpected observation of enhanced glucose levels in the urine. They were doing experiments on some rats, and then they were actually observing the composition of this, and suddenly they found that there was high glucose levels in the urine. And further analysis resulted in the discovery of this protein called as insulin. And there is a book here, Serendipity, Accidental Discoveries in Science by Royston M. Roberts, published by Wiley in 1989. This lists a large number of such kinds of discoveries which are attributed to serendipity. And serendipity is intervention by God. Okay, therefore, from all these experiences, I made this slide as God through the lens of science. Therefore, the line science is actually leading you to God. There are various material words. You have the consciousness, intelligence, order, and then is the life created here. You have this universe with order, galaxies, all of these things which are happening there. And you make observations, and there you have to apply science laws. How do the laws came in? According to the laws, they are you explain your observations, and then you make daily experiences which I mentioned to you. All of these things lead to the existence of God or your experiences of God. Now let us see more. Now we come to the next question: consciousness. What is consciousness? An atheist thinks that biological processes happening in the brain result in intelligence and consciousness. Intelligence is an attribute of consciousness. There is no debate on that. Okay. Now, atheist thinks that intelligence existed in the universe. This is common observation, which I mentioned to you earlier also. Intelligence existed in the universe even before human being came into being. Okay, the entire universe has all these gravitational laws existing, stars created, planets created, they keep going around in a particular fashion, they don't collide with each other, and this is the enormous amount of order. And this kind of an order cannot come without an intelligent being behind it. An intelligent being has to be associated with the consciousness. Therefore, this entire universe displays immaculate, infallible order, which is the consequence of physical laws created by an intelligent being. The biological processes going on in the brain follow the physical laws. Notice here, this is an important point. The biological processes which are happening in our brain, they are actually following your physical laws, the physical and chemical laws. Therefore, biological processes are caused by consciousness and not the other way around. Okay, this explains what is consciousness and given a rationale as to how to understand consciousness. Then you have the supreme consciousness who created laws and order is what we call as God. Every sentient being who also has a consciousness is in everybody individual's brain, that is we call as the soul, who runs the local biological activities in its body as per the unchangeable physical laws and hence is under the control of the God, because it is the God who created the laws and the laws are being followed by every individual in everybody's body, and these biological functions are driven by another consciousness, and that is your soul. It is the soul who experiences all the emotions. Okay, now this is endorsed by eminent scientists. Why I'm showing you this? Because modern youth or some of the other people, they may be thinking that science is, if it is stated by some eminent people who are actually great people, who are very respected people, then what they say has to be right. Therefore, I want to show you here endorsement by the eminent scientist. Here is a book which says 15 Nobel laureates and other great scientists who believe in God. And who are the people here? Einstein, Newton, Pasteur, Max Planck, Galilei, Copernicus, Schrodinger, Heisenberg, Pierre Maxwell, Faraday, Kepler, Descartes, Kelvin, Pascal, Kant, Millikan, Towns, Sartre, Darwin, and many more. This is only on the cover page. Okay. And what did they all say? They said they unanimously opine that science and scientific approaches have limits to what they can unravel. And the same methods cannot unravel secrets of spiritual concepts. Spiritual concepts such as Atma, Paramatma, which are beyond the reach of material-based experimentation, have to be understood from authentic scriptures only. Okay, let's get evidence to this. What all said? Albert Einstein said, science without religion is lame and religion without science is blind. Said, the more I study science, the more I believe in God. Werner Heisenberg, all these are Nobel laureates. Remember, the Nobel Prize is highly respected. Everybody thinks that, okay, Nobel Prize is a stellar person in science. He says, the first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, like initial thinking. Do you require a God? Okay, this is the first gulp. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. This is Upasamhar. This is Upakrama, Upasamhar. When you come to Upasamhar, you say, there is God. Erwin Schrodinger, Nobel Prize in Physics 1933, consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It cannot be accounted for in terms of anything else. We living beings all belong to one another. We are all actually members of aspects of a single being, which may call in Western terminology as God, while in Upanishads he is called Brahman. See, I refer to this because Erwin Schrodinger talks about the Vedas, the Upanishads. He drew inspiration from the Vedas. Then Robert Millikan, Nobel Prize in Physics 1923, to me it is unthinkable that the real atheist could be a scientist. I have never known a thinking man who did not believe in God. Derek Barton, Nobel Prize in Chemistry 1969, said God is truth. There is no incompatibility between science and religion. Both are seeking the same truth. The observations and experiments of science are so wonderful that the truth that they establish can surely be accepted as another manifestation of God. God shows himself by allowing man to establish truth. Christian Effinson, Nobel Prize in Chemistry 1972, he says, I think only an idiot can be an atheist. We must admit that there exists an incomprehensible power or force with limitless foresight and knowledge that started the whole universe going in the first place. Max Planck, Nobel Prize in Physics, 1918. See, remember, Max Planck, Schrodinger, these were the founders of quantum theory. Both religion, both religion and science need for their activities the belief in God. And moreover, God stands for the former in the beginning and for the latter at the end of whole thinking. Okay. Now, he further says that God existed before there were human beings on earth. This is what I said earlier. Intelligence, consciousness existed before the human beings came into existence. Therefore, biological processes cannot create consciousness. The consciousness existed before. The God existed before there were human beings on earth. That he holds the entire world, believers and non-believers, in his omnipotent hand for eternity. And that he will remain enthroned on a level inaccessible to human comprehension long after that earth and everything that is on it has gone to ruins. Actually, this is the fundamental principle that has been given in Rig Veda, in Nasadiya Sutta as well. And this is given in the book. So as I said, I'm giving you the summary of all of those things, not going to the actual full details of those ones there. And Sir C.V. Raman, the Indian Nobel laureate in physics 1930, says the growing discoveries in the science of astronomy and physics seem to be further and further revelations of God. APJ Kalam, Bharata Ratna awardee, God, our creator, has stored within our minds and personalities great potential, strength, and ability. Prayer helps us to tap and develop these powers. Now, prodigies, and these are all people we can experience now. These are people we can see. And all of us have experienced this. Prodigies and persons who displayed supernatural abilities. I said various people have established authenticity of the Vedas, authenticity of the God by direct experience. And I'm showing you those ones here. God bestowed these abilities on them. Their actions testified to the unimaginable prowess of God on one hand and the veracity of the Vedas and scriptures on the other. Srinivas Ramanujan, one of the finest mathematicians India has produced, he lived only for 32 years. He says, an equation means nothing to me unless it expresses a thought of God. He wrote a lot of his thoughts in his notebook, never published them, never gave proof also. This is one of the pages from his lost book, okay, sort of thing people have recovered. But these are the various kinds of equations he wrote. He never wrote the proof. And what did he say here? He once confessed that his results came to him as visions from the Hindu goddess Namagiri, and he saw his role as simply writing down the theorems gifted to him in these dreams. direct evidence for the involvement of God in all of these processes. Okay, Rambhadracharya, who is living, is there, and he is there in the Chitrakuta, and he is the author of more than 100 books. Giridhar, he has been blind since the age of 2 months, had no formal education till the age of 17 years, and has never used Braille or any other aid to learn or compose. At the age of 3, Giridhar composed his first piece of poetry. At the age of 5, Giridhar memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita, consisting of around 700 verses with chapter and verse numbers in 15 days. I have listed only a small numbers here. He speaks several languages. At the age of 7 or 8, he memorized entire Ramcharitamanas. And he actually gave various witnesses for the Ram Janmabhoomi in the Ayodhya temple. He was the one who actually gave so many witnesses, so many evidences for the presence of for the Ram Janmabhoomi in Ayodhya. And now we come to the little bit more supernatural elements. These are the Adi Shankaracharya. The Shankaracharya he demonstrated that his soul can enter from one body to another body. Prakaya Pravesha, transmigration of soul. He was once actually in a debate with Mandana Mishra, and after Mandana Mishra lost the debate, his wife came up and said, okay, now she wants to also argue with him, and she asked him about Kama Sutra. And Shankaracharya, being a sannyasi from a very small age, he didn't have any experience in Kama Shastra. However, he asked for some time. He said, okay, give me 1 month and I will come back to you. So what he did during that time, just when he went out, actually there was a king who just then died. So therefore, what he did, he actually entered that dead man's body, asking his shishyas to preserve his own body, don't destroy it. he entered that man's body. See, that is shown here. Through his Brahmarandra, proceeding on the toe, on seeing, then that suddenly the king became alive. And all those queens become completely baffled that, oh God, what is this miracle? What a merciful act by God. After a month or so, Shankaracharya returned to his own body. He came back to his own body and went to the Mandana Mishra's wife and defeated her. He won the battle, won the debate with Mandana Mishra's wife. So this demonstrates two things here. One is the body and soul are different entities. This was the question I posed earlier, remember that. Body and soul are different entities. This also implicates that soul is not destroyable. It can go from Janma to Janma. So therefore, it implicates the rebirth of a soul. Ramanujacharya, similarly, then he actually, during the last rites of Alavandar, his guru, people noticed that his 3 fingers of Alavandar remained folded, signifying 3 of his last unfulfilled wishes. As Ramanuja, this is Perumal Ramanuja, swore that he would write a commentary on Veda Vyasa's Brahma Sutra, that he would perpetuate the memory of Vyasa and Parashara, that he would strive to propagate Vishishta Advaita, the fingers unfolded one by one automatically and stretched out to normal position. Then you have this Madhvacharya. He is from 13th century here. See, he is actually the avatar of Vayu. He demonstrated this prowess. See, look at this big stone here. This is 50 tons it weighs. And he lifted this in the Bhadra river, near the Bhadra river. He lifted this stone with one hand and placed it on the river so as to facilitate people to travel and get water easily. And this is actually recorded here on the stone with the Sanskrit shloka written in Kannada. This is Sri Madhvacharya Ekahastena Aniya Sthapita Shila. So therefore, this is enormous power. This actually demonstrated that he is the avatar of Vayu. The 3 avatars are Hanuman in the Ramavatara and Bhimsen in Krishnavatara, Dwapara Yuga, and then in the Kali Yuga, he actually came as the Madhvacharya. And Madhvacharya, he showed his knowledge from the previous births. They also actually demonstrate the Punarjanma concept and the Avatara concept. That Madhvacharya did not die. During a teaching session, there was a shower of flowers from the skies in which he got completely covered. When the flowers were cleared, he was not there. He demonstrated that he was avatar of Vayu. There are so many kinds of miracles he performed. It's not important to talk about all of these things here, but all of these are listed in the book. So therefore, one can convince oneself by looking at all of those things, what is the veracity of all of these statements. And then Raghavendra Tirtha, he is in the 17th century, 1595 to 1671. So he is supposed to be avatar of Prahlad. And he's once when Rairu was traveling, Raghavendra Tirtha is also called Rairu, was traveling, an atheist headman who did not believe in God, mantras or Vedic challenged him to a confrontation and asked him to prove the efficacy of the Veda mantras. He produced a dry and hard piece of hardwood, dead wood, pounding baton. Most of you must have seen this pounding baton. And in homes, he actually used this to pound your rice or things like that. Okay, this is a hardwood. This is hardwood, thick hardwood. And asked Rairu to make it sprout leaves. Rairu accepted the challenge. He chanted Veda mantras and sprinkled water from his kamandala on it. Within a few days, the wood sprouted fresh green leaves, vindicating Rairu's words. This demonstrated the authenticity of the Vedas. See, this is what I said earlier. Authenticity of the Vedas can be demonstrated by a few individuals who are capable. Everybody cannot do it and that is, as I said, like a doctor cannot go and build a building. The engineer cannot go and do a surgery. So therefore, this kind of a concept has to be readily accepted. Okay. Then you have the other spirituality concepts like dharma, karma, punarjanma, and moksha. Some of these I already demonstrated to you. Punarjanma I have shown you. And then all the above are beyond the reach of direct material-based experimentation and had to be understood by tools of spiritual investigation, especially the authentic scriptures, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Puranas. Authenticity of the Vedas has been demonstrated by the individuals who exhibited supernatural powers. Okay, and these describe the do's and don'ts, which is dharma or adharma, duties and responsibilities, which is the karma, cycle of birth and death, which is punarjanma, and moksha is the liberation from the cycle of births and deaths. So these are also entities which are more spiritual in nature, and we have evidence for this in the scriptures. Okay, for example, I've quoted here from Bhagavad Gita. So he says, Niyatam Sangarahitam, Araga Dveshata Kritam, Afala Prepsuna Karma, Yat Satvika Muchate. This is the thing. Action that is in accordance with the scriptures, free from attachment and aversion, and done without desire for rewards, is in the mode of goodness. So this is what one should do. And then what is karma? Niyatam kuru karmatvam, karma jayo hi akarmanaha, sharira yatra pishate, na prasiddhe akarmanaha. So he says you should thus perform your prescribed Vedic duties since action is superior to inaction. This describes your responsibility. By ceasing activity, even your bodily maintenance will not be possible. You cannot even breathe. You cannot do without karma. Even breathing is your karma. Then, Punarjanma, also stated in Bhagavad Gita, Jatasya dhruvo mrityu, dhruvam janmam mritasya cha, tasmat apariyarthe natvam shochitu marrasi. Death is certain for one who has been born, and rebirth is inevitable for one who has died. Therefore, you should not lament over the inevitable. So, therefore, Punarjanma is inevitable. That will always happen. And what is moksha? Moksha is Gunan etan atityatrin dehi deha samudhavan janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto amritam ashnute. What are these three gunan? Three gunan are the sattva rajas tamo gunaha, and your body is built up of these three gunas. These are jada, and you actually win over those ones. And once you do that, janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto amritam ashnute. So you get over this janma and mrityu, and you get the moksha. Amrita means moksha. By transcending the three modes of material nature associated with the body, one becomes free from birth, death, old age, and misery and attains immortality. Okay, the philosophy of life. Philosophy of life is intimately connected with the scientific accomplishments as well as spiritual practices. The relationship between Atma, Paramatma, and the world play crucial roles in this context. The primary issues are peace, bliss, suffering, success, failure, dharma, adharma, moksha, and the like. Many different scholars have inferred about these spiritual concepts by interpretation of the authentic scriptures, which are in Sanskrit language and are very crisp and brief. So what is the consequence of that? Consequence is different interpretations have emerged of these scriptures and have given rise to different schools of thoughts, the philosophies, and accordingly different lifestyles. These are in fact debated fiercely. Therefore, it's not blind faith. Okay. Now, then you may ask the question, if they can be interpreted differently, which means they reflect different truths, then what is the meaning of authenticity? The modern man can ask this question, what is the meaning of authenticity of Vedas when they can mean different things? However, this is a misconception there. Look at this. Here is a statement, this is an elephant. Okay, there is nothing wrong about this statement. Now, there are several blind people trying to find out what this elephant is. The blind people are perceiving it differently. He says the fan, says it's the wall, says it's the rope, says it's a tree, says it is a snake, says it is a spear. All the statements are correct in parts. However, everything put together only describes the wholesome object. All pieced together lead to correct, wholesome knowledge. So this is what can happen. Okay. Therefore, among those which all those different schools of thought, the three prominent ones which came into existence are these three. We will not go into the details, the discussion of these ones. That is, I'm just showing you that this kind of things do happen. Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, and Dvaita. These are the three philosophies which came into existence. All the Acharyas agree on the authenticity of all the Vedas, though some have introduced gradation, and therefore demonstration of that fact, even for few statements, should be adequate. Okay. However, different interpretations have arisen due to selected choices of Vedic statements, just like different blind men, and varied scholarships of the individuals. A consistent interpretation of all the statements represents unique truth. This requires extraordinary knowledge and intellect to derive meanings in a context-dependent manner. Okay. And now, notwithstanding the different schools of thought, Paramatma keeps them all happy by giving them rewards, validating their promises, encouraging them to live according to their Guru Shishya Parampara, he prompts their actions. And that is what is Sanatana Dharma, often labeled as Hinduism, is all inclusive. So Sri Krishna gives an explanation to this fact in Bhagavad Gita like this: Ye yatha mam prapadyante tan sathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. In whatever way people think of me, I present myself to them in that manner. Everyone follows my path, knowingly or unknowingly, O son of Pratha. That is Partha. Therefore, this brings in unity in diversity, live and let live, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma, which is eternal, which represents all of these ones, which is going to live forever, all of these different schools of thought will continue to be there, and there will be different kinds of people on this planet. Okay, now how can modern science benefit from such an ancient wisdom? Ancient wisdom encompassed both material science and spirituality. Debates in spirituality exemplify a very high level of logic and rigor, which are crucial for unraveling truth in any field, including science. A lot of knowledge about physical world contained in the scriptures is yet to be explored and revealed by science. Oppenheimer, the inventor of the atom bomb, derived ideas and inspiration by reading the Bhagavad Gita. Schrödinger, pioneer of quantum mechanics, derived inspiration from the Vedas. I showed you earlier, he talked about the Upanishads and Brahman. Then the spiritual texts also provide you ethical guidelines for success. Okay? Be committed and patient. These are your karma, and how you should behave in your life. Be truthful and honest. Be competitive but not jealous. Be tolerant and loving. Be humble and not arrogant. Be balanced in emotions. Be positive and receptive. Be dutiful and responsible. Learning is an unending process. So, as a result of all of this, now the holistic learning is back. The Gurukula style of learning is returning. The new education policy, which emphasizes holistic education, could be a game changer and could bring back the glory of the ancient Indian learning system. It focuses on the bringing ideas of India, Indian languages, and the Indian system of learning back into the curriculum. This policy makes learning more effective and efficient by totally restructuring the system and redesigning the curriculum. Science writing is encouraged. However, we have so many languages, everybody may not know every language. Therefore, what you can do, however, we have technology, use the modern technology. You write in whatever language you can, but use technology to reach out, to translate and reach out with various languages. Okay, so there's a take home. Spirituality and science guide each other in seeking more and more knowledge, invigorate each other in realizing the truths and realities of life, together help in establishing global peace and harmony. So to conclude, finally, this is the Vedic mantras. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. So I am on time.
Yes,
Right?
yes, we are very much on time. Absolutely on time.
Okay.
Thank you very much for a very wonderful, very insightful presentation. I'm sure
Thank you.
all of our audience has learned a lot from it. I think the personal takeaway for me, I would like to stress, it could be for many others, that we often don't realize, we are often taught to think in a such a way wherein the science and scientific method is as if it is posited as a universal method, as if it is posited as a uh, uh, all inclusive, the only way to attain knowledge. But your very opening statements showed the limitations of the application of science to subjects which are atindriya, so to speak.
Yes.
So I think this is a very important perspective that people
Yeah.
needs to keep in. I think we have received a few questions.
Yeah.
I will read them out one by one, and you can quickly answer them.
Yeah.
One question we received is how the Gurukula system can be revived. Can we common citizens play a part in the revival of our Gurukula system? Not directly connected to the talk, but
Yeah.
do please shed some thoughts, your thoughts on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, see, this we can adapt new logistics. The theme is holistic education. Holistic education was the theme in Gurukula system of education. Okay. So therefore, we have to do that, keep that in mind. But the logistics can be different. Today's world is different. Therefore, you can have different kind of logistics. How we want to manage it, that is a different thing. But the theme, the curriculum, the syllabi, these are the things which one has to give attention to. And one can do this. One can do this. You can create small places where you can have topic-wise discussions and allow greater flexibility, understand the weaknesses and the strengths of the individuals, and accordingly guide them to go into particular kinds of profession. And that is how you can make success. See, you cannot push a person into an area which he is not interested or is not capable of. So the gurus will have to understand it. Gurus will recognize it on interaction on a personal basis. That can happen. So this will also generate more number of good gurus. And when you have no number of good gurus, the interaction can be more intimate, and they will identify the strengths and weaknesses of the individual students and prompt them and guide them to go into particular professions, and they will be successful there. See, if you push a person into a thing which is not interested or is not capable, he will be unsuccessful. Then it's a waste of effort and waste of money. So the logistics can be different, but the theme is going to be the important thing.
Thank you, sir. One person is asking about your books. Can you just share more details about the books and where they can be purchased?
This book which I mentioned is I given the link also in that one. This is available on Amazon. The When Science Meets Spirituality, that one, right? That book.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is listed on Amazon. I gave the link also in the lecture itself. I given the link also. Amazon, one can type When Science Meets Spirituality. You will see that. Link will come.
And what is the name of your upcoming book? Another book is coming.
Upcoming book that is still being printed. This is big time. Main title is When Fire Failed to Burn. Fire failed to burn even a single blade of grass. So and another title for that is, which is the Sanskrit title, which is the subtitle, in the Tena Vina Trinamapi Na Chalati. Tena Vina Trinamapi Na Chalati. That is another title which is given below in the same front page only. That is also given. So without him, even a blade of grass cannot move. So therefore, and when fire failed to burn a blade of grass, this is actually one particular episode in one of the Puranas, which Upanishads, one of the Upanishads, which describes the story episode. Eventually, it means that Tena Vina Trinamapi Na Chalati. There are many episodes like that. There is overall in that book, I've listed lots of these ones, and of course, I cannot list all of those. I also listed there lots of other questions also, which show the limitations of modern science, and all of that can be taken up. So the subject is very huge, and we cannot cover all of that in it requires several lectures.
True. We have received one more question. How can better educators or faculty in India be trained, and how can they be recognized outside India also
Yes.
for better collaboration, etc.?
Yes. So this has to start from at the school level. See, the school people have to understand, they have to develop a kind of a mentality. Okay. And to learn both science and as it is and spirituality together. They have to learn, it has to be done at the school level itself. Then they will learn Sanskrit. Sanskrit has to be learned because all our scriptures are in Sanskrit. You can actually go back, read those ones. If you get familiarity with Sanskrit, you will be able to read those and understand what is all the concepts which are present there, and that can invigorate your own science. So once you do that, you'll become the leader. For example, I keep telling people that this is the time for us to take up research in Ayurveda in a big way. Ayurveda, India has a very great resource in Ayurveda, and a good amount of knowledge is available in Ayurveda. Sanskrit one has to learn. You get that, then of course you can incorporate that in your daily research, your professional research. Then you will become known. You will become known. In fact, I had put one title there. I showed you endorsement by various Western scientists. Therefore, one of the ambition of us will be when others will start quoting, this Indian scientist said this, therefore it is true. So this sort of an ambition one will have to have. This has to start from the very scratch, from the ground level, school level. One has to teach this. And when I was small, when I was learning the school, we were actually learning this. But today that thing has changed. It has become very mechanical. It's become mechanical, and you have the style of learning has also become different. The creativity has gone. Your sit rote learning has become prominent, and as a result, the creativity has gone. And many times you produce graduates, people with degrees, but not employable. They cannot do anything. They cannot produce anything substantial. So therefore, this education system will have to change. As I said, the holistic education Gurukul system is coming back. You can implement, you can think of the logistics properly to implement that curriculum and implement it in a way that it becomes very effective.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can Professor shed more light on Siddha healing process? And another question, is any part of this educating in any house or school or even university possible? Is it affordable? So two different questions. You could
Yeah.
quickly answer them.
Ayurveda talks about various all these kinds of things. Okay. And then also the yoga. Siddhi is also comes as a part of the yoga. Okay. Now, Patanjali Sutras actually talk a lot about this Siddhi. There are different 18 kinds of Siddhis, I think. So, and therefore, people can learn that and they can actually achieve it. And these ones are there, which people have demonstrated this. So that is with regard to that first question. What was the second one you said?
I think that was a follow-up question to your education answer. So
Ah.
whatever you explained, whether it is possible to be implemented at house or a school, is it affordable? So that was the question.
It has to start from the house. First of all, the parents have to get that kind of a education to teach them right from the very young age. What they learn at the young age remains in life forever. And then it has to go to the school. In the school, whatever the teacher said, you have to teach the teachers, you have to develop a Gurukul system kind of teaching in the sense that you should not have a class with 500 students. So, that doesn't make sense. So you need to employ more teachers, make smaller classes so that there is a one-to-one correspondence with one interaction, better interaction between the student and the teacher. The teacher can assess the strength and the weakness of the student and guide them appropriately, guide them in the right direction as to what he should be doing, where he should go. So, and the teachers must also give more attention to the student's life as well. It is not that the teacher comes and goes, gives the lecture and disappears. He takes his salary and goes. It should not be the case. And Guru is not just that. Guru is not just a teacher. He is actually the person who cares for the student's life as well. So therefore, it is much more inclusive, and therefore that sort of an atmosphere has to be brought in.
Uh, One final question before we conclude. Uh, Now we are at a stage wherein we are trying to revive our knowledge traditions. So
Yeah,
with IKS and everything,
yeah,
and one of the important areas is of course the sciences, the mathematics and science fields. So we
yeah,
have had a very robust mathematics tradition, the Madhava schools of Kerala, for example, or
yeah,
we had a very robust even physical sciences, chemistry, and all these things in the ancient
yeah,
Egypt. We know that.
yeah, yeah,
But due to this many external and internal factors, our
yeah,
knowledge, the further evolution stopped roughly, I think, 4 or 5 centuries ago.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
now we are all the whole world is whatever science we are doing. It's basically we are all engaging with an Western science,
ah,
Western in the sense of its origin and its
correct,
development. So
correct,
now if we are to speak that revival of Indian sciences or Hindu
yeah,
sciences for that
yeah,
matter, sciences
yeah,
or mathematical tradition, what is the way to go about? Is there a
yeah,
way to go about? Is the modern science so far away removed from the traditional sciences that there is no way to start from where it was stopped. For example, I mean, we know that there are fundamental differences. For example, how Ayurveda approaches illness or medicine questions
Yes,
is
yes,
different
yes.
from how modern system of medicine approaches, or and
Mm.
similar other differences, like how, say, for example, the Nyaya Darshana considers pratyaksha, the
Yes.
mechanism of how pratyaksha happens is very different
Mm.
from how the modern physics posits with this
Mm. Mm. Mm.
representation theory, direct
Mm.
perception, all those things. So,
Mm.
how do you see this? Is there a revival for Indian Hindu sciences really possible, or
Yeah.
if yes, what is the way forward?
No, see, as far as science is concerned, science itself is universal. It is not, we cannot call science as Indian science or Western science and things like that. Science is universal. So, but what is the source? Who is doing it? And how do we plan it? How do you manage it? That is the question. That is the question. So so far as India is concerned, we have great resource. We have to go by what our strengths are, where we can contribute more, where we can make an international name, where others can follow us and not we follow the others. Therefore, we have to be creative. We have to take where our strengths are and contribute in that way. When you contribute in that, others will start following you. Then you will have more resources available. Then you can start going into more and more other further areas. You will have to define new metrics. Therefore, for example, I called an area as herbalomics. See, we all know about things like structural genomics, proteomics, okay, and metabolomics. These are words which are created to describe certain areas of research by in a particular manner. So I created a term called herbalomics. You use the herbal products and define, improve your way you treat your Ayurvedic practices or even the normal practices. But define new metrics. For example, we say that you should have antioxidant, antiviral, this one, anti that one, and things like that we say. Now we say, why not we describe our medicines as anti-vata, anti-pitta, anti-kapha. You describe this, even the existing medicines also you classify in that manner. The pharma industries will also have to take this up and create that sort of an atmosphere. You create a new name, you create a new paradigm. There's a paradigm shift required. Go by what your strengths are, where your resources are. That is where you can contribute more. And slowly you can enter into other areas. Today, what we are doing is we are thinking that what the West is doing, the way they are doing is the best, and therefore we want to take up that only, which is not the right attitude. We have to see what is best for us, what is best for our country. Eventually, you will sell it elsewhere. That is, it will go elsewhere. So we become the leader. Once we become the leader, you establish yourself, then actually go and branch out into more and more areas. More and more is leading to both material science as well as spiritual science. You will develop into, there is so much literature available in our scriptures which is not explored. We have not understood that. Others are trying to understand that. The Germans have started understanding this term. Germans have started learning Sanskrit and reading the scriptures, and they will take ideas from there. And before that, we should do it. And we are the host for all of these things. So if one should do that, then of course you become the leader. Others can become the followers. This is my thought process that okay, you have to do using your resources available here. Initially, people may resent it. They may say, okay, no, this is not accepted by the West. So what? But you produce what is outstanding, what is creative, helpful for your own society, and show that it is good for the human beings, for a harmonious society, for the peace. Others will also adapt it. Yoga, for example, is a classic example. Yoga was not there before. Yoga was there in our science for ages. This was not there in the Western science. But yoga is now adopted everywhere. United Nations also is adopted. So therefore, there is a yoga day, International Yoga Day. So you have become the leader there. So in the same way, you can also become leaders in other areas if you demonstrate that you are the advantage, you are the leadership over there. So we can demonstrate that. So much information is available in the Vedas with respect to your body, physical body, as I said, nadis and chakras and how the energy flows and these mechanistic things which are there, how there are synergies among the various metabolic pathways, how these ones can be no side effects over this. Give the mechanisms of our various treatments in the manner that is understandable by the West in a synergistic manner to give the mechanisms. So they combine that with systems biology. I said, okay, you combine your herbalomics with systems biology, which most people do understand. Metabolic pathways. Describe that in terms of your prana pratishtha, prana, how it is going, not pratishtha, prana distribution, how it is going in the nadis and things like that, how the flow is happening. So you do all of that, then others will start understanding. You see, for example, that Brahma, he was saying, no, Max Planck was talking about that. Max Planck was talking about that. Erwin Schrödinger was talking about that. So they have learned it. So we have to take the lead. We have to take the lead and generate a new paradigm so that others can follow. Yoga, we already demonstrated it is so. Chinese are also trying to do that. Chinese medicine is becoming important. We have other things like acupuncture, acupressure. These are also various other kinds of treatments which are available. So we have to show the effect of all of those ones which are there. These are properly understood in terms of the flow of the prana, how the prana is flowing. All these are related to your acupressure points, acupuncture points. These are described in our Ayurveda. So these kinds of things, when you make it public, when you make it known, show the effects of those, then others will start following it.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very comprehensive response. It was a wonderful session, very enlightening session, and very insightful discussion. Thank you very much for taking time for this session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Viewers, with this we come to a conclusion of Weekend with Wisdom. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates about our upcoming programs. Thank you very much. With this we conclude.
Okay, let me go with the prayer. Let me conclude with the prayer.
Yeah.
हरि ओम नारायणाय परिपूर्णगुणार्णवाय विश्वोदयस्थितिलयोन्नियतिप्रदाय ज्ञानप्रदाय विबुधासुरसौख्यदुःखसत्कारणाय वितताय नमो नमस्ते पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मरताय च भजतां कल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनवे आपादमौलिपर्यन्तं गुरूणाम् आकृतिं स्मरेत् तेन विघ्नाः प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्ध्यन्ति च मनोरथाः हरि श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु
Thank you everyone. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Okay.